I've even never seen $1,000 bill.
Yeah. Chinese people,
Seeing that the quorum is present, I do now hereby call the meeting of Pelham Council for December 16th, 2013 to order. I would now like to call upon Councillor Lane to offer the invocation, followed by the singing of our national anthem. All those who are able, please rise.
Lord, give us this day your strength and courage to do your will. Grant that the members of Pelham Council demonstrate humility, listen with an open mind, and show wisdom in all their deliberations and matters of business placed before them. Bring to this council honor, trust, and dignity to work on behalf of all people of the town of Pelham. Amen.
Amen.
That's a Billy version of
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the day. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We have a lot of things changed this evening. First of all, I'd like to thank Liam North, our mayor for the day, for starting our meeting. Liam was elected last week at E.L. Crosley School. He's a grade 10 student, and he won an election of, there were 4 of them in the election, so he beat out his peers and he was mayor for the day, and he's going to tell us a little bit about that in a second. I also want to acknowledge and thank, it was Councillor King's idea, and it was a good idea to use the national anthem that was played when we were at Glen A. Green School last week, when they, which is in my mayor's report. They celebrated the walkability of their school and the sidewalks, and that have been included and added, and that was played at the national anthem, and it was very upbeat, and Councillor King thought with everybody here that it would be a good way to start the meeting, and I heartily agree. So thank you very much, Councillor, for the suggestion. And no, Councillor Papp, you're not fired. We'll count on you in 2014 to start the national anthem for us. Unless Council wants to continue to use that song. So I would invite Liam North, the mayor for the day, to perhaps say a few words.
My name is Liam North, and today I was the mayor for a day. I started today off by joining the audit committee in a meeting. Then I got a tour of the regional building, and then me and the mayor went to lunch at Keith's restaurant. After we explored some municipal buildings, such as the arena or the operations center, after we were done, we returned to the town hall and learned some stuff that the staff members do. It is a pleasure to start the meeting, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate it. Thanks for being mayor for the day. Councillor Papp says he's hired, so there you go. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And I would ask that we do have some formal things that I think I need to do as the mayor for this term, but I would ask that perhaps you would assist me in handing out little packages to the individuals who are here for the Christmas card contest.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So I appreciate that. So I do have a motion here. Thank you. We start all our meetings with the approval of the agenda, so it has been moved by Councillor Ribbiak, seconded by Councillor Lane, that the agenda for the December 16th, 2013 regular meeting of council be adopted. Are there any changes, amendments to the agenda? Councillor Pat?
I just had a quick, with the indulgence of council, I wanted to under new business, talk about the United Way campaign for 2013. Take me 60 seconds if that's okay.
New business, Councillor Pat. So that will go 17.2.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor King? Can we call the question? All those in favor? Any opposed? That amendment is carried. Are there any other amendments to the agenda? There being none, I call the question on the amended agenda. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. The next item is disclosure of pecuniary interest. That is any conflicts of interest that any members may have. Do any members have any conflicts of interest they need to disclose at this time?
No.
None? And can that be noted, please, that there are no conflicts? Thank you. Now we'll move to hearing of presentations, delegations, and our regional councillor report. The first is presentations regarding the 2013 Christmas cards. I'm going to ask the mayor for the day, as I mentioned, to assist me, but I wanted to acknowledge members of the media that assisted with the choosing of the successful art on the Christmas card. It is absolutely a beautiful Christmas card this year, and thank you, Liam. And you'll see that the theme was Home for the Holidays, and it's a beautiful card. Each of the participants here this evening will receive 10 cards that they can use, and also a little treat and appreciation from the town. We also have a certificate for each of them. So I want to acknowledge them, and perhaps Liam and I can go around and. So the first one is the cover of the Christmas card. Sorry, I keep having two here, three. And this is actually, it's Liliana McIntosh. It's a beautiful cover, Home for the Holidays. It totally captured the theme for this year. And this is actually Liliana's second time on the Christmas card. So thank you very much for sharing your talents. Please come up and accept our appreciation. And a round of applause. That's good. For you. So this is for you, and you included on there a picture that you drew. It's absolutely stunning. If you get a chance, it's kind of buried here under that, but it's absolutely beautiful. There's the original. So thank you very much, and congratulations.
Can you?
They want to come together here, so.
Yeah, thanks.
There we go, Liam. Yes. Thank you. Did you still want pictures of the entire group? Yeah? Yeah. Would you just mind standing up there? And now another second time, I think, right? Melanie Lashley? Yeah, so another second time. Thank you so much again. Just a beautiful picture. Mayor for the day, give it to you. Thank you, and congratulations again for sharing your artwork. Now on the back cover, we have a few, and this is from Michael Jagir. Michael, congratulations, excellent. Thank you very much. Mama wants to take a picture. Michael, congratulations. Maureen Bench, am I getting that right? Did I get that right? Oh, good, thank you. Beautiful picture, look at that. So there's the card, it's on the back as well, the card. We don't have the paparazzi for you, but congratulations. You just would stand over there, thank you. Megan Demetro, did I get that right?
Dimitro.
Rudolph and Santa, you want to hold on to that? Congratulations. Thank you, excellent, thanks so much. Elsie Dyson. Home for the holidays. Snowman, sleigh, fireplace, excellent. Thank you so much. Pictures here. Thank you very much. And there's a little appreciation for participation. Next is Avery Horton. Avery. Sister Lindsay Horton. You're not a fan of this part, but she likes drawing, right? Congratulations, thank you. David John Gillies. Very, very clear right here. Congratulations to you. I don't know that Tommy's here. Tommy Corretzos, is Tommy here? I didn't think so, but Tommy has a great picture there of skiing. Congratulations, thank you. And Adrian Papez. Is Adrian here? There he is. Thank you. Mom, to get a picture? No, Mom, no picture.
Oh, one more. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And now can we, let's give them all a round of applause. And if you wanted to, if with council's indulgence, perhaps they wanted to do a group photo. So would the tall ones get in the back and the shorter ones get in the front? All right.
Get you on the Zoom.
Right there?
Get the real mayor and the.
Photo bomb it.
One more, I'll do it.
Thank you very much. And congratulations to you. Thank you so much for participating in the Christmas card contest. Thank you.
She's right there.
I
Heather was the first place winner. That's
We'll have to get a quickly run out.
Said that.
Is he staying there, or do you want to keep so.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah, I gotta grab my stuff.
Yeah, go there.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, dude. Didn't mean to get away
As they're leaving, and I want to thank them again for their families for coming, a great story about the power of these Christmas cards. And I think I mentioned this to Pelham Council before. Last year, on behalf of Council and the community, I sent a Christmas card to the Lieutenant Governor of Ontario and invited the Lieutenant Governor to view our accessible playgrounds. And I got a call in May from the Lieutenant Governor's office, and he said, we read your Christmas card, and we do want to come down. We're in Niagara on such and such a day, and we want to come and visit. So these cards are not only wonderful ambassadors for our community here, but also across the province and the country. So again, I wanted to thank all of those who participated in the contest, and also those that actually are on the card. So thank you. And I'd like to acknowledge and thank Liam North again for being mayor for the day. He's going to sit here at the meeting, and he might have to leave a little bit before the meeting's done. I know that he has a hockey game later on this evening, so I want to thank you very much, Liam, and perhaps, Council, we can give him a round of applause for his experience. Thank you. We have another presentation, and that is, we have another couple presentations. And the first is Phil Kerwin and Natalie Castrelli, and they're going to be presenting the Town of Pelham website launch. Thank you for joining us. I think we have to, people are looking here, I think we have to get some technical things going. They want to display the website.
Can they get the projector on?
Yes, the old ones.
Thank you.
I have those from here. I've done that from here.
So we can start with the other one.
Hard to coordinate when we had that other presentation, so thank you for your patience, everyone. So I want to apologize again. They're warming up, as it were.
Looks like the light's on.
So Phil, do you want to give us the background as we things warm up here before we?
Essentially the background was we were tasked with, we were responding to an RFP which was put out by the town to work on the rebrand for the town of Pelham, which we completed. The next phase after that was to work on the new website, which was to replace the existing pelham.ca. We were tasked from day one by Darren and Kerry with the role of making the town of Pelham's website the most elegant website and modern website in the Niagara region. And I think what we see when we eventually get it up on screen will be testament to that. So what we've managed to bring into the new site, we now have advanced mapping capabilities.
We're experiencing non-advanced technical difficulties.
There we go. It's not screwed in. There we go. Okay, so that's the old website, as you can see.
Okay, thank you very much.
And let's skip to the new website. So the new website.
There's a bunch of stuff here.
There we go. There we go. Okay, so it's going to be a squeeze on this screen. We've got that ad on the bottom there. Oh, that's fine. There we go.
I think it's Chrome.
There we are. So
Thank you for that. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
So essentially, we're going to have some slow loading speeds because I think we're working on Wi-Fi. But
I'm gonna try.
yeah, essentially what we have is a completely redesigned website. We have a news stream, news feed on the bottom there, and a press release feed on the bottom. We also have local weather. Let's try a new window. Is that going to work?
I'm trying Explorer.
Okay.
instead. That'll be better.
There we go. So it's a little slow on the refresh right now. But essentially what you've got is at the bottom there you'll see you have a news feed and a media release feed. You also have pretty much every department that you need to get to throughout the municipality. All of the navigation at the top there has drop down, so you can find your departments very easily. There's a lot of crossover between departments, so there are multiple ways to get through the site and to find the information you're looking for. The images in the background there refresh, and we can change them based on seasonality, so that someone visiting in the fall will see mostly fall images. Someone visiting in winter will see mostly winter images, and those changes will come over the next week or so. Down at the bottom there, we have events calendar, which is multiple functionality across the events calendar. So you can search via categories. So we can show categories drop down. So we've got different venues, so you can go through the website and check, what's going on in the month relating to the different categories that you select. And then you can go through information, then click through to further pages if there's further pages relating to those events. Obviously, council meetings, and you can read more as well and go through. We also have council meeting agendas and minutes, which are downloadable and readable online. One of the big steps forward in this website is the accessibility. Obviously, within Niagara we have an aging population, and one of the key issues that we have is accessibility. So on the top of each of the screens, you'll see we have the ability to increase font size, and you also have a lot of tagging in the images and various different elements of the content, which helps when you go onto things like e-readers for those with sight issues, and also various different elements within we have tagged so that those readers can pick that piece of information up. On the top of the website you have the How Might We Help You function, which is the search functionality. The search is pretty extensive, so you can go through and search many different things, and you will be brought to the various different levels of information that you have on the site. So for example, what did you search for?
Council.
So you search council. So now you've got everything that's relating to council. You can go through to the different pages, and obviously there's plenty of different ways to find that information. You can look up permits. You've got building permits, pool permits, every kind of permit that you want. One of the functions that you have on this site, which is, definitely no one else in Niagara has, not many in Ontario have, is the full forms functionality. You have a lot of online forms on this website, which cuts out a lot of the need for people to call and bother city staff. So these forms can be filled out on the website and submitted electronically. You only had the after. There we go.
No, it's not.
Problem with security certificates. So that's probably what the problem is. It's only gone live this afternoon. We're having some issues with the DNS transfer. So you can go through and send these applications out. They will be submitted to the relevant department within town staff. So they're not all going through one email box. They're going to the relevant email box for that department. So we're basically cutting out a lot of unwanted traffic via phone. Yeah, we can show a map. So within the mapping, you have again categories. So we can select whatever function we want to go for. So we went to entertainment.
I did education.
Oh, did you go education? Sorry.
We can do entertainment.
Entertainment, recreation, there we go. So right now we've not populated fully the site, so obviously there's opportunities further down the line in terms of adding more venues, adding more events, adding people who may want to sign up to have their event listed on the website. But that's obviously a phase 2. And again, you can link through to these little pop-ups that you have here. Could have video on, so they could have a 20-30 second advert for whoever or whatever location. They could have images, or they could just be simply a link through to a page like this one is for the Music Academy.
Also for mapping, we have for mapping we also have cycling trails, and you can turn those on and it'll show you where they are.
So for example, if you're looking for a restaurant and it happens to be on the cycling trail that you're looking at, then it's another way of upselling, another way of adding points of interest to people who are coming down from various parts of Ontario to spend their time cycling around Pelham.
And there's also a regular business listing, so if people don't want to use the map and they just want to have the same functionality that was on your older website, then we also have the categories here.
Okay, so we've also integrated the social media, which is going to be key moving forward. Part of this whole revamp and redesign is to take into mind the Web 2.0 functionality, which has gone from organizations telling people what they need to know as to having the community tell you what they need to know. So a lot of that social media integration is placed within this site. You have the public service request there, which is a third-party software which enables your customers and residents to make contact with you via this portal and make you aware of things that need to be addressed. And it's a kind of an easy way to create dialogue, but again, without the need for people to call staff and take up valuable time during the day. The social media functionality also allows people to share all the news stories, the press releases, the many different components of information that you have on the site across their own Facebook pages or their own Twitter feeds. And I think that pretty much covers it. Covers everything. Say the forms is the most extensive I've seen of any of the municipalities that I've sort of studied during this process. The ability to have that online is pretty unique, and I think it's definitely a first in Niagara. And I think a lot of the functionality there is way ahead of anything else that's being done in Niagara. So I think I think we can all be pretty proud of this as a website and a web tool moving forward. It gives you the opportunity as well to be fairly expansive in terms of additional plugins and additional options moving forward. So it's not a site that goes live today and is obsolete tomorrow. It's a site that's going to grow as you grow as a municipality.
Very good. Thank you very much for your presentation. I wonder if members of council have any questions for our presenters at this time. Councillor Pat, you had a question?
Well, I guess first of all, very, very, very advanced. I'm not a tech guy, but what I look for is simplicity of use.
Yeah.
Because people want to be able to go to this site. So just out of curiosity, the businesses, under the business section, are these businesses, and maybe whether, Mr. Mayor, are these all businesses that have registered with us? They're the ones that register. So anybody else could register if they wanted to online, as I understand it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have our My Pelham profile here, so people can register and they'll have their own profile. They can fill out their business information. Everything goes through an approval process, so nothing has gone live onto the site without you guys first checking and making sure that it's legitimate.
And even internally within town staff, there's an approval process as well. So you can't just have, let's say, a temporary clerk who comes in and puts in information and it goes live straight away. It goes through an approval process before anything goes live. So nothing that comes out of here is untoward, and everything is approved through the correct channels.
Thank you, and I think, Councillor Papp, you asked whether it was part of the business directory. You're gonna ask the clerk to respond to that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, this is piggybacked on the original business directory that they used to sign up with cards, and we go through a number of checks and balances to make sure that they're Pelham businesses and that sort of thing. So the approval process would be through the clerk's department.
Oh, good, then you answered my other question. Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Others? Councillor Ribbiak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The date of rolling out is
Today.
today,
Yeah.
but I think you've indicated that there are some
We had,
issues, some problems.
What we had to do was the old hosting for the existing Pelham.ca. We had to change what's called the DNS, and the DNS essentially points the URL when people type in Pelham.ca. It points it to the server. So we have to transfer that DNS to the new servers where the new site's hosted. It's a little bit glitchy for the first 12 hours, and then after that, everyone will default to that website. But it's a convoluted process, and again, it depends on the service provider. So I know Mike's been working hard on that today, trying to get them to move a little quicker. Yeah, I mean, there's also some issues with regards to caching as well. So when, like for example, the Wi-Fi in this building has been cached to the old site because it's been used to going to that site. So that data's been cached, but now, as in the coming days, you'll see that drop off, and the new site will be the one that takes over.
That's helpful to know because I'm trying to get it here on my iPad.
Yep.
And it's the old site, so,
Yeah,
but the CEO has it on his laptop,
I actually did it on the mobile, and I was on the Wi-Fi, I went off the Wi-Fi, and it now defaults to the new mobile site. So you can see on there, you've got a whole different mobile experience. You're not looking at a full site on there. The only thing that you're missing off this is the forms, because obviously you don't want to be spending ages typing a form on a mobile device. But everything else is on there in a mobile style, so it's easy to find.
Good, thank you. And I cut you off, Councillor. You have another question?
I do, and I guess what I'd be looking for is the kind of simplicity that Councillor Papp has alluded to, but in particular around forms, the interactivity. So if I was to call up a form, I can work on it, I can save it, I can work on it over a period of time before submitting it, or is it? Have we gone through that process? Do we know it's going to work?
We haven't done it over a period of time, I don't believe.
It all has to be filled in at once?
It has to be filled in at once, yeah. I mean, there's nothing stopping you from printing it out.
Okay.
You can do that. That's within.
Can you give us just a quick?
Yeah.
Application to demolish. Okay, so there it is.
Now that's what I was getting at.
So as long as it's live on your browser, it's still
Yeah.
active.
Yeah. So you can move to a different window. If you wanted to do something else, you can open a different window and go back to this as long as it's there. There's no time sensitivity to it in terms of it's not going to refresh after a certain amount of time.
Yeah. The usual process, if I may, Mr. Mayor, of going through a form is you read the form first, find out that you're missing half the material, have to go and research it all, and then put it all back in.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you print that, and we come back when we've got all the information, and then submit it all at once, as opposed to doing it
And
all online.
some of the forms have the ability to also add attachments. So say, for example, if you want to, I think architectural drawings is probably a bad example, but that sort of thing, if you wanted to add some attachments to illustrate what it is you're applying for, then those attachments can be added as well and submitted with to the correct department within town.
True. And if I may, Mr. Mayor, one last
Go ahead.
point. The public service request, obviously, as you pointed out, is a third-party supplier, but it works seamlessly, does it? If you click on that, it'll take us there?
From our perspective, it's as simple as adding a graphic with a link on from our site. So it doesn't really converse back and forth with our system, as it is a third-party product. But at their end, all the system's there and everything's easily manageable, and you can find your way around quite easily.
So we work with that, and it'll go in.
So this is more for things like, roadkill on Highway 20, that sort
Oh,
of
yeah.
thing. It's those sort of things where you make, a note to these things to alert town staff that something needs to be addressed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anything further? Any other councillors? Councillor Pat?
I would request that, it's great, there's always going to be glitches, but I wouldn't mind, Mr. Mayor, that like in 90 days, we just do like a sort of self-evaluation, see how this is going.
Yes, yeah.
Because there's lots of stuff here, there's a lot of brand-new stuff, and it'd be worthwhile. I'm just using that as through you to Mr. CAO, that we could come back and see how the public has responded to it, how we use, because I want to play around with this, I want to see how this works, and picking up what Councilor Ribbiak's thinking, along those lines, if I submit the form, do I get something back that says your form has been submitted, and you'll get, okay, perfect.
All that communication you'll get back.
Okay, good. So there's that turnaround that I know from a service delivery that something has happened.
We have a number of steps in place after this. I mean, this isn't a case of here's your website and we walk away. This is the first phase of a few phases over the next 6 months. We'll be coming back with analytics, so we'll know what people are looking at, where they're going, how we can improve that flow, how we can improve people staying on the site, as well as obviously reviewing server performance and in general just the communication with Darren, Kerry, Anna, so we know what's going right, what's going wrong, and how we can improve.
Yeah, because we will on the other side. Sorry, Mr. We will receive. We as councillors and the mayor, sure, if anything doesn't go right, we'll be the first ones to hear about it, right? So we need to be able to, say, yes, it's under control, we're going to evaluate it, so that's fine.
Mr. CAO, do you want to just do a quick comment for Councillor Papp on the idea of the 90-day kind of evaluation? Maybe touch on that quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our staff, particularly the marketing and communications coordinator, will be keeping close touch with the chimps as we go forward. There's a number of things that we still have to do, as been indicated, and I'm sure Anna can report back monthly as part of a report to council on how we're doing.
Okay, thank you. We'll look forward to that in your monthly report. Are there any other questions? No good comments. Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate it, and it's been great working with you. Nice to see it here. I know it was supposed to be here in the summer. Glad that it's here now by the end of the year. And we look forward to hearing feedback from the community about what they think about it. It does include the new branding for the town, and really, I'm pleased to see on behalf of council and staff that it includes many of the things that were outlined when it was first suggested to us. But also many things that are leading edge that will allow us to continue to be a leader in Niagara and across the province. So thank you very much for your work on this. We look forward to continuing the process, and I want to be able to look at it on my iPad as well. So look forward to that too.
Just get off the Wi-Fi and you'll be okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Have a great holiday. Thank you. Next on the agenda, thank you for their patience, is a delegation called PAN, Preparing and Assisting Neighbors Delegation. Just a little bit of a background. I heard this group, as I think it's here, they're a student group that are working with the Lego Robotics. They just won, they're from Pelham, and they just won the regional competition, so congratulations to you. They were the leaders at that. And they are going on to the provincial competition in early January. So they wanted to make a presentation to us, and after hearing it, I thought perhaps there might be some way in which it's a great idea, and maybe there could be ways that we could work together with them. So I know the fire chief will take special notice, no doubt. So without further ado, members of PAN, and please give us your presentation. Actually, I should say your name is the Lego Da Vinci's. Do you want to give any additional? Go ahead.
Just while they're setting up, go in front so they can see. And grab the chair, Scott. My name's Debbie Hopefully, and I'm just the mentor of these great students. And Mayor, they've said their name is the Lego Da Vinci's, and a lot of people ask, well, why, if they're a robotics club, are they doing stuff about weather? So every year, First Lego League has a topic. And this year it's called Nature's Fury, and it's about weather. So they have different parts to what they need to do, but one of the parts is to pick a community, pick a natural disaster, and research the problems related to that natural disaster, come up with a solution, and try to implement it. And so they're going to tell you about their problem and their solution in a little skit. Every line has information in it, so you're going to need to listen really quick. They have to be able to give all this information to the judges at the competition in 5 minutes. They might just slow it down a tiny bit so you don't miss anything. So, you guys ready?
Yep, sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey guys, we gotta get ready for the neighbors coming over.
Yeah, guys, get up. Stop playing with the robot and get up here.
Is there going to be any food?
Food? Where?
I don't know about this. We're busy working.
It's true, we've been working non-stop on this whole Lego thing since
May.
Yeah, you're right, it was May.
Wow, it seems like yesterday.
Oh yeah, we learned about all those natural disasters and did those presentations for each other.
We did a lot besides that. We did a demonstration at the NEA showcase to a local homeschool group. Don't forget, we also demonstrated at BrickFed in July.
And to fundraise, we hold 2 half-day robotics workshops for those cute little kids.
Whoa, I feel so old. We're also mentoring that new Lego robotics team, Legolas.
I hope they do well.
They will. Darby Pearson, the emergency plan for the Niagara region, was awesome. She gave us lots of helpful information.
Joe Cully from Emergency Management and Training was great too. He gave us his opinion and input on our project, which steered us in the right direction.
Wow, we've learned a lot. It was really hard to narrow down our idea, but we figured out a way to connect neighbors in the event of an emergency.
Oh, they're here.
Hi, my name is Natasha. Thank you for coming. Have a seat. Would you like some tea, squares?
Thank you for coming to our focus group. We're going to talk about a new organization called PAN, Preparing and Assisting Neighbors in a Crisis.
Thank you also for responding to our surveys. Our information shows that most people are not ready for a natural disaster, but are very willing to give or accept help from their neighbors. We also found out that most people do not have an emergency preparedness kit.
Picture this, a windstorm. Winds up to 80 kilometers an hour strike through the Niagara region. Power's out for up to 3 days in parts of Pelham.
A tree has fallen on a single mother's home. The power is out, and an elderly woman's power is out, and the temperature is well below 0. A young family has run out of food and can't get out because of a storm.
How can you help?
We have a solution.
When PAN is working as it should in a community like Pelham, this is what will happen.
Neighbor brings some tools. Neighbor brings a blanket and a cup of hot chocolate. Neighbor brings a casserole.
The problem we address, neighbors are not prepared for natural disasters, and when they do occur, they don't know how to help their neighbor.
Our solution is called PAN, an acronym for Preparing and Assisting Neighbors. It is a way to connect neighbors before a natural disaster occurs so they are ready.
In order to launch our idea and get the word out to the whole community, neighbors will meet at a block party in their area, where amongst games, fun, and food, they will receive general information about being prepared for a natural disaster.
Information such as education and a display of an emergency kit, emergency preparedness pamphlets from the Niagara region, and then the special PAN magnets and decals.
The window decal will identify a household as being a member of PAN, Preparing and Assisting Neighbors.
The magnets will have the PAN logo, website, and space for participants to put names, addresses, and phone numbers of as many as 6 close neighbors.
PAN will be supported by a website, pancanada.com. The website will allow users to register, get information about hosting a block party, building or buying an emergency kit, and general information about disaster preparedness.
There will also be useful links such as the Canadian Red Cross and Niagara region.
The website will remind people to check and update their emergency kits every 4 months.
During a power outage, many people will not have access to the internet. Often, temporary cellular connection can be established faster, so our website will be mobile responsive. We also plan to have an app and customized emergency kits on our website.
Through all of our research, there are many websites and organizations who are trying to connect neighbors, but not in the event of an emergency.
So there you have it, PAN, Preparing and Assisting Neighbors. Next time there's a disaster in your area, be prepared and ready to help your neighbors. You never know when you might need their help. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Okay, so for funding, we talked to someone from Niagara Community Foundations and about applying for a grant. And what she said is we would is to apply for the grant we were looking at, that we would have to partner with either a charity organization or municipal. So we would like to look at partnering with you for that, for funding. And then we would also like you to consider that we could possibly be part of the Pelham emergency plan.
All right. Thank you very much for your presentation. Really appreciate it. So in essence, I'm going to ask the first question, then I'm sure council colleagues have questions. The question that you asked is how can one or how might we link neighbors in the case of an emergency? And you identified some of the situations so that if there was an emergency and that linkage didn't occur, somebody wasn't fed, something happened and they needed it repaired. But if that linkage is there, then neighbors know how to help neighbors, and they know they're close neighbors. And you identified that there are block parties, I guess, that you would have and invite neighbors to get together to talk about the assets they might need or the special circumstances they might be in. So thank you very much for that. And your request then is to perhaps partner with the town to seek funding so that you can actually launch this. This isn't something that you just are doing in the theoretical. You actually want to make this happen. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I wonder if members of council have any questions. Councillor Durham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm just wondering if the request to be part of the emergency measures thing, and our fire chief is here, and I'm wondering if we could arrange a meeting that, perhaps we can use this resource for your efforts, Chief. Can we arrange this?
Fire chief? Absolutely. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Absolutely. We can include them on our contact list.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Others? Questions? Councillor Papp?
I'm very familiar with the Niagara Community Foundation and as well as the mayor. I just wondered, what about partnering not only with us, but possibly other service club organizations? And I'm thinking specifically, whether Kinsman Lions Club, Rotary, that they would be also possibly very interested in. So as many partners you can get and launch. So what you're looking is to launch this here in the next few months. Is that the target?
Can you comment on that?
We plan to get it up and running
By next summer?
By next summer.
And have the kind of the official launch, familiarize people with it at Summerfest.
Good. We can help you.
Chief, did you want to? Did you want to comment? No, I thought you wanted to comment, Chief.
No, I think it's
in terms of service clubs, etc.
I think it's a great idea. There's a lot of different ideas out there we're involved in with the region and other municipalities around, and the bigger the group, the more resources we have out there to, because we unfortunately don't know when these emergencies happen, and all of the help we can get in a short period of time, and kids are a great resource for social media, so it's good to have. So it's a great idea.
Chief. One of the things, Council, that we spoke about when they presented this to me before the regional competition was that we do welfare checks. The fire service, the volunteers go through town and do welfare checks. That's sort of into an emergency, whereas this is ahead of an emergency, preparing for it. And so I like the suggestion from Councillor Durley that perhaps they could be somehow incorporated into our plan. We do have a motion. Councillor Durley, go ahead.
Just another, we were mentioning about websites. We saw the presentation just before you with our new website. You mentioned the website that will be associated with you. I'm wondering if there could be a link with that as well as things get rolling, and of course that would go in with the emergency service with the chief. So I'm sure, Anna, you're well aware and you'll be able to handle that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. So, go ahead.
Show you the website, Skeleton Live there.
So it's live?
Yeah, it is. Well, it was. As far as I know.
What is it? pan-canada.com?
Where's the
Pan,
I think staff didn't know and they shut off the machines here. So pan-canada.com?
You did 2 days. Oh, I thought it was 2.
Here. It's also mobile. So it's here. It's
We took a seminar
There it is.
on how websites can become mobile and how it works better. More people are looking at websites through the phone. And in a natural disaster, you probably won't be able to have your PC hooked up to internet, but then you have 3G, 4G networks on your phone that generally tend to stay up through natural disasters.
Or
So
can
we have
be
it-
established faster.
Or can be established fast. So we have it set up so it works just as good on a phone as it does on a desktop. You don't have to swipe, zoom.
Do you want to just take 2 minutes and just give us a quick overview of the website? Is that what you wanted to do?
Sure, you and Natasha.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
you
somebody?
Yeah, go ahead. Do you want to use the mouse or? No, it's the mouse over here. It's confusing.
Okay.
So, yeah, you talk.
So first we have a homepage, which is basically just information about what our organization is. And then we have an article up at the top that shows just like how much people don't know their neighbors. And it connects to a separate tab so that it still stays on the website, which is always good. And it has how to host a block party right on here. And then there is a link to where you can buy emergency kits. In the future, we will actually sell emergency kits on here and have an option for customized emergency kits. But as a basic skeleton, we used a website that sells emergency kits. And then
Hello, you have been selected to take part.
We've won a prize.
And then this is just a little about us thing that is a little bit about FLL and about our team.
So when I saw it, I thought about it as being sort of block parents for emergencies, that type of idea, community working together. Well, thank you very much for that preview of the website. We appreciate that. I do have a motion from council, and that is moved by Councillor Ribbiak, seconded by Councillor Lane, that the information submitted by PAN, Preparing and Assisting Neighbors delegation, be received and forwarded to staff for a report. With that report, that means that it will continue to be active here at the town. That will incorporate some of the suggestions here that members of council have talked about and staff have talked about. And this will come forward in timing in terms of the new year, so that perhaps, I think their question, Mr. CAO, was that, is there a way that we can partner together for funding? So that will be the type of information in the report.
Yes.
Do we know the timeline for the funding application?
There's two that they've looked at. There's the Niagara Community Foundation, and then there's the Neighborhood New Idea Fund, which is a partnership between Niagara Community Foundation, the United Way, and one other party. And I think that was 45 days turnaround for that one.
Okay.
The Niagara Community Foundation, they were looking at a $500 mini grant. And for that, they had to have a partner. For the Neighborhood New Idea Fund, they can apply for up to $2,500, but they have to have either matching funds or they have to match it in labor.
Okay. Thank you very much for that information. So it sounds like it's an open window, so there's no specific deadline that's being worked for. So is there anything else from members of council? I appreciate the idea. It's a great idea, and we wish you all the best of luck. It's coming up in early January. This report probably won't be coming to us in advance of that provincial competition. When's the date of your?
January 18th.
January 18th. So all the best to you. Happy holidays to you, and thank you very much for the presentation. I'm going to call the question on this, and then we'll work together with you to get a report and see if we can make this a reality. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. So we'll look forward to that report and to perhaps partnering with you. Thank you so much for the idea, and all the best in the competition. Thank you. Thank you very much. And now the report from our regional councillor, Brian Beatty. You won't need the slide projector, do you?
No. I'll pass on to public health. They may have an interest in that presentation as well.
Thank you.
You have the report before you. There's a typo error. The first one on the 5,000 said 500. for the kilometers and so on. And obviously now writing the report on the Wednesday before, it looks like a future tense for council, but we did have the council on December the 12th. Only two things that I want to mention about council itself, you I think are already aware through your mayor and newspaper, is that we did pass the 2014 budget, both capital and operating, and that the operating budget is slightly under inflation again this year, which is a good track record for the last 7 years of regional council. And it's a case where the second thing that happened, again, you've been informed through an email that the two of the items for a referendum have been sent forward. But I should mention that I've also asked staff to follow through in terms of other tools such as SurveyMonkey, social media, and actual formal surveys to get the same kind of data, perhaps a better cross-representation, because as unfortunately you're aware, maybe 30 to 50% of the people actually vote. We might want to get that handled from a larger cross-section, including those that don't vote. So those are the only two things there. One item I'd like to comment on very briefly from the report is at the end of integrated community planning. It's an invitation to you to help formulate. This idea of an AMO-type Niagara conference was proposed about a year ago during a meeting in I guess, with a business planning meeting, etc. Concept would be, first of all, to have individuals who are serving in a role of counselors, basically to, number one, have an idea of contact information for the other people, but it was really to try and provide a forum to share best practice. When we go to AMO, that's really what we're looking for, is ideas that we can bring back to our town, or the same is true of the federal conference as well. So the concept would be best practices, and one of the ideas, this hasn't been fleshed out, but you may have some thoughts on the matter, we can, between the school board and public health, get enough clickers of the A, B, C, D answer. And if we formulated a number of very specific questions, and in live term, have the various counselors that attend this event give their position on various matters, in terms of, be like a multiple choice question, but you'd have the answer up on the screen in terms of how many people, for example, the question about, do you support the concept of the amalgamation of all 12? I mean, that's the referendum question that's going forward. But, so we're looking for your ideas in terms of making this. We're talking probably about a half-day event, with likely a lunch, maybe a central location like the Beacon or perhaps Falls Center for Conservation. Something you might have that would be beneficial in fleshing this out, because it's not the region doing something for you, it's taking a lead to try and do something for us together in terms of sharing best practice.
Good, thank you very much, Councillor. Appreciate those updates and that call out. I wonder if members of council have any questions for Councillor Beatty. Councillor Powell.
So, thank you, Councillor Beatty. I must say, I'm very pleased to see this here again about having an amalgamated sort of group session. A few years ago, we tried this. Mr. Mayor remembers them, and the only two communities that showed up were Pelham and Welland. We really had very little to talk about. So, are you asking, am I right, Mr. Mayor and Councillor Beatty, that you're asking ideas from us, or are we going to be on what should constitute that day's proceedings? When do you need that by?
I don't think we have a date set at this point in time. The only two things that we've come up with, and that's when I say we, it's a staff member and about 3 councillors, is the notion of the multiple choice question with hopefully some carefully worded questions to try and focus that would be of interest to all. The second one is the sharing of best practice, and I think your water meter process probably is one of the more, for me, one of the things to really brag to the world about. Now your website, okay. But it's a case where, yes, we are looking for ideas, and if we get ideas from various councils, it might help sort of formulate what we collectively might want to do.
Thank you. I think another concept might be the public service request, for instance. And I'm pleased to see that we did talk about this. I think Councillor Papp, you were interested in taking a bit of a lead, and kind of, as you said, you put it out there, but no, there weren't any takers. So Regional Council did decide to go ahead and try to organize it, not to be a top-down sort of thing, but to be a collective. So I would say in January, if we want to get together and maybe we can add it to one of our P&P meetings, that might be the best way to do it, and suggest these are the 1, 2, or 3 things that we'd like to suggest to the region in terms of our best practices. So maybe we can include that in one of our priorities and planning meetings in January. You think the timing would work out sort of mid to late January? Okay, thank you.
Or maybe even later into the early spring.
Okay, thank you. Yep. Anything further, Councillor?
No.
Okay.
That's good.
Other councillors? Questions for Councillor Beatty? Thank you very much, Councillor.
For each of you then and staff, very Merry Christmas and healthy and a prosperous 2014, and may you all fare well in an election year.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Appreciate it. Merry Christmas to you and Elaine and your family. I look forward to seeing you on Thursday. There's a little bit of a gathering there.
Yes.
And then also, Councillor Beatty, not tonight, but at a subsequent meeting, Councillor Beatty is very involved in the planning of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Conference. And so I would ask that as part of your reports, maybe you could give us an update on some of those study tours that you're organizing. So perhaps when the time is right in the new year.
Close to having a final list. It's being prepared in the next 48 hours for submission to FCM. We have about 20 proposed tours, and I'd be glad to bring that at the next report.
It would be helpful. We could take a look at that. And
another thing I should point out in terms of another hat is the fact that we are going through, and this Wednesday at Balls Falls at 7 o'clock, we'll be going through the final consultation with regard to the NPCA strategic plan. Received a fair amount of comments from 2 public meetings already, but if anyone should wish to be involved in that process, the material is available online should you wish to have commentary. And one of the features from the section that the working group I chaired, was to provide higher visibility for members of the authority. We were seen to be questions about how do we get there, who are we, and one of the proposals was to have perhaps as much as a quarterly presentation to local councils, and then through the media some understanding of what the Conservation Authority does with projects specifically in the town of Pelham. And maybe we can bring forward once the report is finalized. We should have final recommendations after this meeting, probably somewhere about middle of January, and a fair restructuring going on within the Conservation Authority to try and respond to the perceived needs from the various stakeholder groups.
Very good. Thank you very much. So that's Wednesday at 7, is that right?
Wednesday at 7 at Balls Falls.
All right. Thank you very much, Councillor. Appreciate that. I have a motion from Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Durley, that the December 16th, 2013 regional report submitted by Regional Councillor Beatty be received for information. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thanks again, Councillor. Merry Christmas. Next, we do have, next on the agenda is Municipal Act, Section 357 and 358 write-offs. No, we don't see anybody present here. I don't think that's going to speak to it. It's moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Durley. The Council approve the following tax write-offs under Section 357 and 358 of the Municipal Act as follows. Write-offs totaling $7,655.12. I believe I'm supposed to ask if there's anybody that wants to speak to that, but we don't see anybody here, so I think that's a moot point. Any comments, questions from members of council? Councillor Durley?
One question and one, house damaged by demolition, what does that mean?
Madam Treasurer, can you, I thought it was interesting too. Damaged by demolition.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's a property that there was a demolition done to an adjacent building on the same property, and the house was damaged slightly, so MPAC assessed that portion as well.
Slightly, there's quite a dollar amount there for slightly.
Once the repairs or renovations are made to the house, then MPAC will go back out and assess it back to value at a future date.
Our good old friends at MPAC. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any others? I do want to acknowledge that there is a fire of a family home with a Marr family, and on behalf of council, I want to offer sympathies to them, and those are very devastating for families, and we wish them all the best, especially this Christmas season. And I know that the fire service has been very active in supporting them, so thank you for that, Chief, and please pass along thanks. I'm going to call the question on the write-offs. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Next is approval of minutes. We have moved by Councillor Durley, second by Councillor Ribiak, that the following minutes be adopted as printed, circulated, and read. The meeting of the special meeting of council on December 2nd, 2013, and the regular meeting of council on December 2nd, 2013. Any errors or omissions? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Mayor for the day.
I think I have to leave soon.
You have to leave? Okay.
Thank you. It was good seeing
Okay. I guess to get to that hockey game. Thank you very much. Perhaps maybe Ms. Van Ravensway, you can walk the mayor for the day out. Again, thank you very much, Liam, for your involvement, and we'll be talking to you soon.
I'll see you later.
Okay, thanks, Liam. Take care. Give him a round of applause. Thank you, Liam. Thank you.
He's got the Jimmy Fallon.
It was more perfect than yours, Dave.
Definitely more perfect than Pap's.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah. What can I say? I got the chia pet on.
Next on the agenda is the consent agenda items. There's several, and they're quite lengthy, especially the items from the region. I wonder if there's any items that councillors would like to lift for separate consideration. There being none, it's been moved by Councillor Durley, seconded by Councillor Ribbiak, that the following consent agenda items be received for information and the recommendation contained therein be approved as applicable. 1, recommendations of Committee of the Whole of December 2nd, 2013. And the second being the minutes of the Committee of the Whole, December 2nd. The third area are staff reports for action or information. The first is the multi-year accessibility plan, and the second is the renewal of consulting agreement with the Harrington Group Limited to work on our accessibility plan. There are several areas of correspondence. The first is a letter from the Premier regarding our resolution regarding the arbitration process. The second is a thank you letter from the Robertsons where they celebrated their 60th anniversary and received a token from the town. The third is a resolution from the City of St. Catharines regarding governance in Niagara. The fourth is something that Council spoke about last meeting, and that is about snow operations in the town of Pelham and a press release for that. The fifth, the City of Niagara Falls resolution regarding their local contribution to the Niagara South Hospital. The sixth is information from Fenwick's 160th Anniversary Committee, really closing the loop and offering thanks. And the seventh are really 4 reports from the Niagara region, information about the activities that they are involved in, the integrated community planning, the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence City initiatives, the Welland Canal National Historic Site application, information on the National Household Survey, and then also on Employment Lands Survey. Are there any items to discuss on any of those? Councillor Durley.
Just a comment, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Although very interesting and informative, the 181-page report on the National Historic Site application in Welland Canal, perhaps in the future, if something comes through of that size, because it really doesn't deal with the town of Pelham, actually the mayors of Wainfleet, Port Colborne, Thorold, St. Catharines are the ones that are signing this. We're not even, included in that. So, in fact, mention that this is there and perhaps a link as to where we can get that if we wanted to see it. I know there's some interesting pictures and a lot of really interesting history in there. However, to take so much time in our agenda, I think it's really not really something that we need to do at this particular time, especially when some of our agendas are already so heavy. So that just as a suggestion for the future, perhaps.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it was included probably because of a resolution from the Integrated Community Planning Committee at the region, and that is to circulate to area municipalities. I think that was probably, it should have been to circulate to affected area municipalities. So I'll certainly take that with what you're offering. So thank you very much, Councillor. Others? Councillor Kersey and then Ribbiak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple of areas that I'd like to speak about. Under the multi-year accessibility plan, I had a couple of questions, and I'm not, one, I know who I should address it to, and that is with respect to, in the report, it speaks about having accessibility incorporated in our procurement policy. And I looked at the procurement policy, and I couldn't really see any specific commentary with respect to accessibility and how it would impact our procurement policy. I wonder if the Treasurer might be able to comment on that.
Okay, thank you, Madam Treasurer.
I apologize, I don't have the policy with me at this time, but I do believe that there is a clause in there about accessibility that was done when we renewed the policy in 2010, I believe. So, but I could verify that and distribute to council.
Okay, thank you.
So would that deal with the type of, or with an ability for an individual who had accessibility issues to be able to receive the forms in a different format, that sort of thing, as well as accessibility to the building and ability to bid, et cetera?
Absolutely.
I see.
It deals
Okay.
with all of the RFPs, the RFT, any request that comes in from someone with a disability, that we would accommodate them
I see.
through
Okay.
this.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Along the same lines, Mr. Mayor, I see something in there with respect to the library board and accessibility, and I have no recollection of any of that coming forward to the library board. So I don't know who would be responsible to follow up on that, whether I should direct that to the library board to look into, or whether we could do that through the town. Just make sure that it has been.
Yeah, I would suggest through the library board. Are you suggesting that that was part of their successes that were listed? I was looking for it here.
Yeah, it's indicated that it was completed, and I have no recollection of it coming
I'm
before
going
the
to
library.
ask the clerk perhaps to comment on that. Madam Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, our consultant, Ms. Harrington, has in the past worked directly with library staff
I see.
to ensure compliance.
Okay, well, I'll follow up on that. then
Okay,
on my
thank you,
level.
Counselor.
you.
Anything further? Are you
Not-
done with the
not with-
accessibility?
yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from councillors about the accessibility plan? Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Kersey, to your next item.
The other issue is to deal with City of St. Catharines' resolution in governance in Niagara. First, as a comment, it's very interesting that when you look at the survey results and all the commentary that was put forward to them, that they could come up with the conclusion that they did, because there wasn't very much data there that one could draw down on and be statistically relevant. Secondly, it's a question perhaps to you, Mr. Mayor, on what is going on with this whole issue of governance at the regional level. You know, is there anything moving forward in that area, or et cetera, et cetera?
Thank you very much. And as Councillor Beatty alluded to, there was an issue that occurred last week on the Regional Council's agenda. It was a recommendation by a notice of motion by a regional councillor that was duly seconded and put on the floor to add questions to the ballot. I believe this correspondence was also on Regional Council's agenda, and Regional Council chose not to take any action on it. But those two questions that were approved on the ballot were to talk about funding for regional transit. There were 7 options, I guess, that the council put forward, but the 2 that were successful and carried were funding for regional transit. And then the second question was, should the 12 municipalities amalgamate to form one City of Niagara? Something like that was the wording. Those were approved at regional council. They weren't debated because it was the motion was called for vote immediately. So they were approved by regional council. Now I understand it moves on to the next step, which is that they look at it to see whether the questions are clear, and also staff are to prepare a report about the implications of accepting those. Should there be a positive vote, and I think should is the right question, but should there be a positive vote, what's the ramifications of that? My understanding, again, from reading the report, I don't have it in front of me, unfortunately, is that one needs to have 50% of the population voting, which unfortunately doesn't necessarily happen in municipal elections of late. And then the second is that at least a majority, 51%, vote in favor of one of those questions or another. Then that means that it's actually, I'll say in quotes, binding, and that the municipality is to do everything in its power to enact it as quickly as possible, and there's certain timelines that must be fulfilled. So this is really sort of some of the first steps to have questions like that on the ballot. and we'll have to keep you informed on that. I know, having spoken to the clerk today, and maybe you want to just comment, Madam Clerk, that the clerks across the region are also discussing it and trying to talk, figure out the best approach to deal with it. Madam Clerk, can you just comment as well to help answer the councillor's questions?
Certainly through you, Mr. Mayor, the local area clerks will be meeting very early in the new year so that we can jointly discuss the costing implications to a municipality, because it will be part of our regular municipal elections. So we would need to provide that pricing to the region on the costs associated, because they will be recouped through the region, and also ensuring that we are all on the same page on getting the question on the ballot and how we are going to manage it as clerks, because we are the ones that will manage the municipal election for the region.
Okay, thank you. So I hope that answers your question, Councillor.
It does, Mr. Mayor. In some of my reading, I came to understand that before the region can even consider this type of reorganization, it requires an act of Parliament, I believe. They have to petition the provincial government to have permission to proceed with something along this order. And
for a question on the ballot?
Well,
I believe so. I think
the organization. So, I mean, wouldn't that be something that would be a precursor to even putting it on the ballot? Because if they find themselves in a position where the odd thing happens where 51% of the 50% actually, now they're bound to do it, even though they haven't got permission to go ahead and do it. So it seems like there might be a cart before the horse here.
I believe that is one of the stipulations, that clarity of question is extremely important. I'm not sure that the questions are worded the most appropriate to solicit a yes or no answer. The question has to be not only clear but also neutral. And then second, I believe you're right. It does have to, once there's a public meeting and we hear from the public on this, what do they think about it or don't think about it or whatever, and then I presume Regional Council would vote again on it based on that information, and then finally it goes then to the province, to the minister, for a sign-off. So there is some involvement of the Ontario legislature, or at least the minister. So it's more of a beginning, I guess, than it's cast in stone. The interesting thing, I think, is that one would have thought that we had this resolution from the City of St. Catharines about governance, and one would have thought that maybe a councillor from that city would have maybe added this as one of the questions, and that didn't occur. So, as I did say, debate was cut off, which is allowable at the region, unfortunately. So,
thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Others to that particular item?
Yes, exactly.
Councillor Durley?
I'm just wondering if some municipalities would want to add that to their ballot as well, because I think some municipalities figure that bigger is not always better, and in fact, if a municipality voted no to that and the regional vote was yes, could the no voting municipality have the power to opt out in this type of thing? Because I really have some real thoughts about this, and like I said before, I know that a lot of people don't think bigger is better, and in fact, when sometimes when the upper level touches something, it doesn't always end up to be what it's meant to be. So
being gold, I think, is your question.
Well, it's the opposite of the Midas touch. Exactly. But like I say, we need to proceed with this one, definitely with caution, because it's well, like I say, I'm waiting with bated breath to see how this opens up.
Okay. I'm going to ask the clerk, Madam Clerk, your understanding of a sort of what Councillor Durley is talking about, a regional vote versus a local vote. Can you just fill us in on, my understanding is that this, if it's approved and goes through the region, this is on the ballot. Is that the case or not the case?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, it would be. The regional clerk has already delegated her authority to the local municipalities to run the election component for the region. So that would be for the regional councillor and if there is a regional question in upper tier. The Municipal Elections Act does address upper tier questions that are facilitated by the lower tier. I believe what Councillor Durley was referring to was perhaps having two questions on the ballot, one that has a regional scope and one that has a local scope. This is one of the things that the area clerks have been discussing just through email at this point, jurisdictional authority, and what if an area municipality wanted to have a question on the ballot as well, among a number of other questions that the area clerks have. So we will be meeting early in the new year to try and, I've kept track of your questions and I'll bring those forward to the group as well.
Okay. So, Councillor Durley, does that answer your question?
Yes, and as I mentioned, I appreciate the initiative that the clerks are taking because, as I mentioned before, a lot of people are of the opinion bigger is not always better, and like I say, certainly I will be watching this with great interest. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, and perhaps, Madam Clerk, you'll keep us up to date on those things, as I will as well, hearing from the region and Councillor Beatty in our reports. Anything further on that at this point? Probably form the basis of other discussion moving forward. So thank you for that. Any other items on the consent agenda that?
Oh no, Councillor.
Oh yes,
Rubia.
I'm sorry. I
Go
did
ahead,
have
Councillor
Councillor Rubiak and then Councillor Powell.
Thank you,
Councillor
Mr.
Rubiak on a
Mayor.
different item.
Yes, with respect to regular committee of the whole meetings, of the whole minutes, the meeting on December 2nd, there was a comment made by the CEO in his report with regard to the business plan study, the telephone survey data, and the business case, both reports that I think we're waiting for. I note that we're at the end of the year. Just wonder whether the CEO might be able to comment on what we can expect to see and when we can expect to see it as we proceed. Important question. It's been around this all term.
Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To answer the councillor's question, as council is aware, there was some information that was provided to council. It was questioned with regards to some methodology. We've been working with the consultant to straighten that out, but that's pushed us off our timeline to table a report. Ideally was today's meeting. In consultation with the consultant, we're expecting sort of a two-phased approach. One will be the draft report itself on the analysis. That will come on the January 13th council agenda, and then at the following council meeting there will be the formal business plan to support the report that you received. So you actually received two pieces of information in the month of January, and then we'll move forward.
Okay, thank you. Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. We look forward to that. Anything further on that particular item? Okay, thank you. Councillor Powell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be very brief. Many of you, probably all of you, all read in the paper about the Lynn approving the second site in South Niagara for the new hospital. And I noticed on here there was correspondence from the City of Niagara Falls talking about their commitment and the town of Fort Erie. At some given point, I anticipate that there will be a request coming to us at some point if it is to be considered. So I just want us to be very proactive on that, because I'm sure as this starts to unfold during the process of there is a by-election coming up, and this is going to be the top topic, and there will be asks, and there was a suggestion in the paper, as you know, about whether the other participating, the adjoining municipalities would be considering giving something of a capital commitment to this new hospital. So I look forward to that, and I know, Mr. Mayor, you're on top of that, but I'll be interested to see now that they've got Lynn approval. And the next step is that they'll be looking for also NHS to step up with their trustees to say that they need to endorse this particular site. So that's why I was wondering, there was some suggestion about us making a commitment. I'm thinking, we're not ready, we're not prepared to make any kind of commitment like that. And I would presume that's the sort of the contemporary stance right now.
Thank you. I think if you're looking for comment, you're right. We should think about it on behalf of the community. And I think other councils have looked at it as a way to push that site.
Right.
And maybe that's something that we should discuss here as well in the new year.
Some point, yeah.
And how that works together with the plans that we hope to have as well in our community.
Correct.
So we'll have to discuss that in the new year, and I'll ask the clerk to add that to our list of things to discuss next year.
Well, part of our strategic planning process was to discuss,
That would be a
we
good
have major
thing.
expansion, which includes certain, as you know, healthcare components, and we need to take a stance, like we did before with the UCC.
Right.
Whether we get it or not, we need to also stand and say, here's where we are, and what we believe and should happen. So, appreciate that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, and perhaps it's a good suggestion that we add that to part of our strategic planning update that's coming up early in the new year. Thank you, Councillor. Anything further from any of the consent agenda items? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Some good discussion there with some follow-up, and we look forward to that follow-up occurring in the new year. Thank you. Thank you. The next item has been moved by Councillor Lane, second by Councillor Kersey, that the correspondence received December 12th from Peninsula West Power, Inc. and the accompanying dividend check in the amount of $35,462, being the town of Pelham's pro rata share of the dividend, be gratefully received, and that staff be directed to deposit the funds. I'm sure staff were looking for an area in which to put those funds. So I'm going to call on the treasurer just to give us some more information about where previous funds have gone to. Council will remember we received $170,000 in the summer from the sale of an asset. Can you just remind us of where that and the previous dividends went?
Previous dividends went to, in prior years when we were doing the hydro variant of lines, would go to the roads budget to help support that. The $170,000 went into the facilities reserve. It's council's approval to maintain it there. And it's being recommended that the $35,000 also go into the facilities reserve as well.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion to that? The facilities reserve.
You can do it as an amendment or take it as staff direction, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, which would you like to do? You want an amendment, Councillor, or staff direction? Just put it as amendment.
Sure, I'll make
Amendment. Councillor Kersey, staff be directed to deposit the funds in the facilities reserve. Okay, moved by Kersey, seconded by Pap. Discussion. All those in favor? Amendment carried. Any other discussion? I'll call the question on the amended motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you. Look forward to further dividend payments from that company, from that power company. Am I next here? My report? Okay, thank you. I'm just going to move to it here. Thank you. I do have a report here about the activities, so thank you very much. The first was on my report, Christmas Under the Arches, that occurred on December 6, 2013. Thanks very much to the volunteers and staff for organizing the first Christmas Under the Arches outdoor Christmas market in Fonthill on December 6th. Many thanks to the vendors, the service clubs, the musicians for making the event so wonderful and vibrant. Thanks very much to council colleagues for turning that switch on as we did to illuminate the arches that are so beautifully illuminated. And thanks very much to the Summerfest committee who helped ensure that the hydro upgrades and the arches were lit. I see the hydro box there as well, ready to go and to be used for other community events. And finally, thanks to the more than 1,500 people that participated in the events. We look forward to, I presume there'll be a debriefing report, and look forward to, many people said to me actually as part of that, and I think there's some commentary later on, but would it happen the next day, etc. So lots of excitement about that. So we look forward to future events like that and the debriefing of this one. The next item is the Pelham food drive, which occurred the next day. Thanks to Councillor Durley. I noticed he was there, and maybe some other councillors were involved in that. And the hundreds and hundreds of volunteers who participated in the 22nd annual Pelham food drive. It really is a way of, again, starting the holiday season and the season of generosity, of gift giving. Many thanks to the Fonthill and Fenwick Lions Club for hosting the event. I did tour as well, participating in it myself, but also toured Old Pelham Town Hall. It was just a beehive of activity, and the Lions Club. So thanks very much to the hundreds and hundreds of volunteers that participated in that. As I mentioned earlier with the national anthem, Councillors Durley, King, and Ribiak and I also participated in the Safe Routes to School and the Sidewalk Celebration at Glennie Green School on December 11th. Very nice that the school honored that and the work that they've been doing to try to encourage people to walk and cycle to school and also to do so safely. They're very, very excited about the upgrades that have recently completed on Port Robinson Road. And so thank you very much to staff for that and council. And as is highlighted in the report, I spoke about the upgrades that we've made through the years, including the sidewalks, the traffic signal, bike lanes on Port Robinson, and then allusions as well to other pedestrian signals. Special thanks to members of council and Mr. Dean Allison, our Member of Parliament for Niagara West Glanbrook, and other representatives and user groups of Old Pelham Town Hall for the official reopening of the Old Pelham Town Hall. Just wonderful to see those funds used and the facelift that Old Pelham Town Hall has received. When you go back there, it looks like it was always like that, and yet there's new accessible washroom and the windows are light, opened up, etc. So thanks very much to Mr. Allison for the funding. We did bend his ear and request that he'd assist us in getting additional funding so that we can make further changes to that, and I believe that's later on our agenda as well that we can discuss. And the final item I do want to highlight, now this is something that perhaps I should have included in my report from last meeting and neglected to do so, Council, so I ask your forgiveness on that. But the CAO, the Director of Recreation and Culture and Wellness, and I met with some representatives of the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 613 regarding the proposed redevelopment of Peace Park. They weren't able to attend the Peace Park meeting that I know Councillor Kersey was at and other users of Peace Park. So we reached out to them to have a special meeting because the proposal calls for the possible relocation of the cenotaph and the flagpole. They were quite open to the idea, but wanted a representation to be made at their general meeting on January 14th to present these issues. Other issues we talked about were the East Vaughan Hill development, and the representatives from the Legion expressed interest in the town naming roads in that development, which is of course across the street from the Legion and adjacent to Peace Park, after significant local war veterans. And we also discussed the Ridgeville Cenotaph, as staff indicated they would look at options for funding and fixing it in 2014. So I just wanted to highlight that for council, and if council's okay with that, we'll proceed with that meeting with them, and the idea of perhaps looking at naming some of those significant roads in the new East Vaughan Hill development after veterans. The clerk is pointing that we have a
You had asked me to
prepare a motion to that, so I'll put the motion on the floor and see if there's any discussion. How's that sound, Council? It has been moved by Councillor Lane, seconded by Councillor Kersey, that my report, Mayor Augustine's report for the December 16, 2013 council meeting be received, and that the mayor and staff be directed to proceed with meetings of the Royal Canadian Legion regarding the potential relocation of the cenotaph and flagpole at Peace Park. Any discussion regarding that item? Councillor Papp?
Just quickly, Mr. Mayor, so I presume all of us are invited to the January 14th meeting?
Yes.
To discuss that. That's
Yeah.
good. Okay.
I think that's their normal general membership
That
meeting,
is
is my
the general.
understanding. Okay, so please put that in your calendar. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion's carried, and that meeting is January 14th. Thank you. I believe it's at 7. And now, Councillor Papp, your report, sir.
Yeah, very quickly, my report is on the Pelham Chamber Conference Board meeting December 9th. The big exciting news, of course, is that Ms. Fabiano has been named as Joint Executive Director of the Niagara Falls Chamber and the Pelham Chamber. Secondly, the Business Directory has been revamped and will include Port Colborne and Wainfleet Chamber as well as Pelham and Pelham. And as you probably have seen, that there is still quite a bit going on with the memorandum of agreement, and all of the chambers are fully engaged right now. And there's some discussions happening right now with Wainfleet and Port Colborne, so This is set into motion a very positive step in the business development and economic development. And hopefully we can hear more about it at some point in the new year when we start moving on the economic development plan here. I've also extended an invitation if in fact at some point we do open it up to when Gord Hume comes here to help us in formulating and facilitating that action plan for the new economic development strategy. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that, and certainly see that collaboration and engagement are involved with the chamber. So thank you very much, and congratulations to Ms. Fabiano for that appointment. Thank you very much. Councillor, next we have staff reports requiring action. And it is moved by Councillor Kersey, second by Councillor Papp, that Council receive the issue summary report, Old Pelham Town Hall renovation user impact, and that the costs identified in the capital budget years 2014 and 18 be reallocated for completion in 2014. I think actually Council did something very similar to this during the capital budget process. However, we sought additional information. So, who wants to speak first to this item? Councillor Riviak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's really just to reiterate a question that I had earlier, and that was with regard to the cost implication of the expenditure, moving the entire expenditure into the first year versus. I just wonder whether we can hear something of that.
Okay, thank you.
That wasn't in the report.
No, you're right. It wasn't, Madam Treasurer. The cost for I'm sorry, I went to the treasurer. You wanted to go to the director. The cost for I believe it was the financial cost that was discussed at the last meeting. Do you have a handle for that for the councillor?
The financial cost of borrowing funds through cash flow?
Yes, I
would
think
be
that's your councillor. Is that your question?
Or is the impact? I was understand the impact. Of
Let's hear from the councillor. Councillor?
That's right. My concern, and maybe it's a pointless concern, but my concern is that if we spend all the money up front, we still need to pay its carrying cost over that same period of time. And I'm just wondering what the cost implication of that is, just the cost of the money.
Okay. Madam Treasurer?
The cost of the money would be the rate of interest that's charged to us through the line of credit, if we were to use the line of credit to cover any cash flow issues. And it's only during a time of cash flow issues because we have reserves to cover off the use of this money for the renovations at the Old Pelham Town Hall. So I don't have, I can't give you an exact number because I'm not sure if I'll need the cash to use the credit line to cover the cash flow, and it's only in circumstances where I would use it, and as soon as the funds would be available in the bank, I would pay it right back down. So.
Okay, thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I gather from that there's a tremendous potential that in fact there will be no cost difference between doing it this way and the other way in terms of the financing. There may be a cost if cash flow is impacted upon, but given the amount of money, it's probably not likely.
Madam Treasurer, is that a fair assessment?
That's a fair assessment because you can attribute the cost to any other project that might be going on at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, my question is that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Others? Just interesting to have the discussion when we had the opening with the architect, and the architect suggested that there would be savings for doing it all at once. The users at that meeting suggested that there would be, and I think that's in the report as well, that there would be savings to do it all at once. So I guess my only question for the director is, will we involve, as we did before, the Heritage Committee and the Pelham Seniors and the Kinsmen, the major users in that?
Agreed, Mr. Mayor. Of course we would. We worked with them in the renovations that we just completed, and for sure it would be up to you.
Okay, thank you. Anything further on this? So we're ready for calling the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried, and we look forward to that work being done next year. Thank you. We have a couple of items of new business. It has been moved by Councillor Kersey, second by Councillor Lane, that the 2014 council schedule be revised, as follows: that Monday, January 13th, 2014, council and committee of the whole, in addition to or to replace the tentatively scheduled public meeting under the Planning Act. Discussion? Is that clear? Ready for the question? All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion's carried. Thank you. Councillor Papp, you had another item of other new business.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity. I just very quickly want to mention that the United Way campaign for 2013 is facing a very major uphill battle. They're looking at a shortage of almost 45,000 from last year's contributions. And my challenge is to you as members of council and the mayor and to our staff who have sent this information out, that if we were to all just even pledge $1 per week, we would raise over $5,000. I wish I was able to this year again to do as we did with the Three Amigos, but I can tell you we are going to be doing an event, which all of you will be invited to on May the 3rd in recognition of the 50th anniversary of United Way. We'll be doing that. So I can't overemphasize how important it is, and that hopefully you will take that in consideration, as I will be as well. And I know Councillor Kersey and some of you did that, and I want to thank staff and push this because there's a desperate need, and I appreciate the opportunity to bring this forward.
Okay, thank you
Mr.
very much,
Mayor.
Councillor. And you issued the challenge last time that I double what you gave, which I did. You gave the $2 a week, and I gave the $4. So I've committed to that, and I don't know if other colleagues have done that. It sounds like some have. So certainly appreciate that and look
Thank
for.
you.
I know that a notice went out to staff last week. Mr.
Yep.
CAO, do you want to just comment on that?
Staff's been encouraged to participate, and I believe that any staff member who contributes $25 or more gets their name entered into a draw for a day off.
Oh.
So we've upped the stakes a little bit on our end, and we're encouraging staff to participate.
Thank you, Mr. CEO, for your help.
Thank you, Councillor.
Okay.
Anything further on that? Next, we have motions and notices of motion. Moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Kersey, as recommended by Committee of the Whole at their regular meeting of November 4th and subsequently ratified by Council on November 18th. The following motion is presented for Council's consideration. Whereas by order in Council, a municipal council may, where it deems to be in the best interest of the municipality, issue a license authorizing any eligible charitable or religious organization to conduct and manage a lottery scheme, including one held at a bazaar. And whereas a bazaar is defined as an event where any combination of the following lotteries may be conducted, including but not limited to a raffle or penny auction raffle with a maximum of $500 in prizes. And whereas the $500 prize value limit has remained unchanged for decades and no longer reflects the value of total prizes that are donated to be offered at a penny auction raffle event in conjunction with a bazaar. And whereas these small groups, such as charitable or religious organizations, have come to rely on fundraising potential generated through penny auction raffle events, wherein a large number of prizes offered for bid are donated and have a collective value of more than $500, and whereas the administrative burden for small local groups to comply with the regulatory reporting requirements is more than their volunteer memberships can manage, and that these groups have expressed concern to the Council of the Town of Pelham that the continued existence of such fundraising activities is threatened. And whereas the communities throughout Ontario receive many benefits through such fundraising efforts related to the relief of poverty, the advancement of education, the advancement of religion, and other purposes beneficial to the community as permitted, be it resolved, therefore, that the Council of the Town of Pelham hereby requests the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario to amend the bazaar license requirements to increase the total prize value to at least $1,000 to better reflect the actual value of prizes in today's society, and further that the clerk be directed to advise the Chief Executive Officer and Registrar of the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario and the Ministry of the Attorney General of this request, and further that copies of this resolution be circulated to local MPPs and local area municipalities for support. Any discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion's carried. And I want to thank the clerk for putting that lengthy but very complete resolution together. Thank you. We look forward to hearing from other colleagues across the region on that. Next is presentation and consideration of bylaws. It has been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Kersey, that the Council of the Town of Pelham, having given due consideration to the following bylaws, do now read a first, second, and third time, and do pass the same, and that the Mayor and Clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign and seal the bylaws. 1. Bylaw 3446, 2013, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into an agreement between Pelham, Waynfleet, and West Lincoln for the sharing of services of a drainage superintendent. 2. Bylaw 3447, 2013, being a bylaw to appoint an interim drainage superintendent for the town of Pelham pursuant to the Drainage Act as amended. And 3. Bylaw 3448, being a bylaw to regulate or prohibit the keeping and running of at large of animals. Any discussion to any of those bylaws? Councillor Kersey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bylaw 3446 and 3447 seem somewhat at odds to me with each other. Clause number 7 in 3446 in the agreement, which lays out the agreement between Waynfleet and the other parties, speaks about the municipality not employing any other personnel to carry out the duties that are specified within the agreement that we're signing with Waynfleet. And yet the next bylaw, 3447, we're going about to appoint an interim drainage superintendent. So we would on one hand pass the bylaw, and the second bylaw would be, we'd be violating the very agreement that we just signed. So I just wondered if we could have an explanation to that.
Okay, who's able to answer that? Are you or CEO? Who's doing that? Mr. CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Unless I'm mistaken, I would ask the clerk to correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that the bylaw to enter into an agreement is basically a renewal of a shared services agreement that we have with regards to drainage inspection and the drainage superintendent. So we agree in that agreement not to hire additional drainage superintendents because we're in an agreement. The second bylaw, 3447, we are required under the Act to appoint the drainage superintendent that has been hired for the position, and Waynfleet's gone ahead and done the hiring. It's a formality that we go through to appoint officially the drainage superintendent who we're in agreement with the two other municipalities to employ and to share. So it's not, I wouldn't consider that to be a conflict between the two bylaws.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Councillor Kersey, does that answer your question?
I think I understand. So each municipality that's in the shared agreement will have to go through passing a bylaw to appoint that same person. So, and is this person, it's specifically an interim drainage superintendent, is that the implication that he's only there for a short period of time? Will they seek out a more permanent replacement for the drainage superintendent?
Mr. CEO.
Yes, the individual that's being appointed as the interim is doing so just to provide a basic level of service until the permanent superintendent who has been hired completes the required credentials from the province.
Thank you. That's anticipated in the spring, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thanks. All right, thank you. Councillor Durley, to that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just wondering where this person can be contacted, because I know some folks actually, I met a person just this past weekend who has some concerns about a municipal drain, and he said, at present, we didn't know about a drainage superintendent, but is there contact where this person can be contacted, and the update to that when the permanent is hired, that this information can be made public?
Mr. CEO.
A couple of responses, Mr. Mayor. First, any resident that's looking for service, whether it be drainages or otherwise, can certainly visit the public service request feature on our newly launched website. It's probably the easiest and fastest way to get to the person you want. The second recommendation would be that they contact Mr. Al Manel, the Director of Public Works, either by phone or by email directly, and he can put them in contact with the superintendent as well. And ultimately, they can also call my office, and I'd be happy to refer them with
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Others to those two items? Okay, and any to the third item? Okay. I did have a question here. I do have a question regarding what others are calling the exotic pet bylaw, so the regulate and prohibit the keeping and running of animals at large. So just want to get some clarity. I think I know the answers already, but I'm going to ask a question to the fire chief. Council saw this. It's very similar, I think, to what the other bylaw was. It was reviewed by a lawyer. Is that was correct? And then the input from some licensed owners, I think. So if we just hear a little bit about that, the process, and how it got here.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we talked to M&R, the Humane Society, Greg Fruin, who has the large cats, the reptile store owner down, Mike London, down here at the end of the Highway 20, the reptile specialist out of Toronto. They all had input on this stuff, and then eventually we compiled this, and then we sent it to the lawyer, and he reviewed and made his changes in language, mostly in the way we.
But not in intent. In language, not in intent, right?
No, just the way we had certain things worded.
Mm-hmm.
And then further to the question you had with the rescue, if anybody sets up a rescue type of thing, that would be, they wouldn't be able to set up unless we approve it. So the Humane Society would have to approve it, and the town, and probably, depending on the impact of it, would be the region would be involved also. So for someone just to have a fly-by-night rescue operation, like as you had questioned in here, would not likely happen.
Thank you. You anticipated my question. That was my second question. There was a rescue center that was opened up in Thorold, near the 406, and so I'm pleased that
I don't believe
there are.
Ever got approval from the region or the city of Thorold.
No, they didn't. So this bylaw will protect that, and those. It's required that they receive those registered approvals.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions on that bylaw? So are you ready for the question? Thanks, Chief. You know what, I gotta say, thanks for working together with those providers. I think it's made the difference. We don't have the gallery full of folks talking about the exotic pet bylaw because you've done that and you've been proactive, and so on behalf of council, thank you. I'm gonna call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We do have some in-camera items, and so as is our normal practice, we usually recess the in-camera, or recess until after our committee. So it's been moved by Councillor Durley, second by Councillor King, that council recess the in-camera portion of the meeting and reconvene immediately following the committee meeting scheduled for later this evening. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion's carried. Let's take a 2-minute break before committee. Thank you.
What's the whistle for?